Caliban was under siege. The village was engulfed in flames, and people were darting frantically between pillars of flames and piles of the dead. Gavrael watched helplessly as a small boy sped past a hut directly into the blade of a waiting McCain. He recoiled. They were only children, but children could grow up to seek vengeance, and the fanatic McCain never left seeds of hatred to take root and bear poisonous fruit. By the light of the fire engulfing the huts, he could see that the McCain severely outnumbered his people. The distinctive green and gray plaids of the hated enemy were a dozen to each McIllioch. It's almost as though they knew we'd be vulnerable, Gavrael thought. More than half the McIllioch were away in the north attending a wedding. Gavrael despised being 14, although he was tall and broad for his age, with shoulders that hinted at exceptional strength to come. He knew he was no match for the burly McCain. They were warriors with powerfully developed, mature bodies, driven by obsessive hatred. They trained ceaselessly, existing solely to pillage and kill. Gavrael would be no more significant than a tenacious pup yapping at a bear. He could plunge into the battle below, but he would die as inconsequentially as the boy had moments before. If he had to die tonight, he swore he would make it mean something. Berserker. The wind seemed to whisper. Gavrael cocked his head, listening. Not only was his world being destroyed, now he was hearing voices. Were his wits to fail him before this terrible day ended? He knew the legend of the Berserkers was simply that, a legend. Beseech the gods. The rustling branches of the pines hissed. Right, Gavrael muttered, as he'd been doing ever since he'd first heard the fearsome tale at the age of 9. There was no such thing as a berserker. It was a foolish tale, told to frighten mischievous children into good behavior. This time the sound was clearer, too loud to be his imagination. Gavrael spun about and searched the massive rocks behind him. Wotan's cleft was a tumble of boulders and odd standing stones that cast unnatural shadows beneath the full moon. It was rumored to be a sacred place, where chieftains of yore had met to plan wars and determine fates. It was a place that could almost make a stripling lad believe in the demonic. He listened intently, but the wind carried only the screams of his people. It was too bad the pagan tales weren't true. Legend claimed berserkers could move with such speed that they seemed invisible to the human eye until the moment they attacked. They possessed unnatural senses, the olfactory acuity of a wolf, the auditory sensitivity of a bat, the strength of 20 men, the penetrating eyesight of an eagle. The berserkers had once been the most fearless and feared warriors ever to walk Scotland nearly 700 years ago. They had been Odin's elite Viking army. Legend claimed they could assume the shape of a wolf or a bear as easily as the shape of a man, and they were marked by a common feature: unholy blue eyes that glowed like banked coals. Berserker. The wind sighed. There is no such thing as a berserker, Gavrael grimly informed the night. He was no longer the foolish boy who'd been infatuated with the prospect of unbeatable strength, no longer the youth who'd once been willing to offer his immortal soul for absolute power and control. Besides, his own eyes were deep brown, and always had been. Never had history recorded a brown-eyed berserker. Call me. Gavrael flinched. This last figment of his traumatized mind had been a command, undeniable, irresistible. The hair on the back of his neck stood up on end and his skin prickled. Not once in all his years of playing at summoning a berserker had he ever felt so peculiar. His blood pounded through his veins, and he felt as if he teetered on the brink of an abyss that both lured and repulsed him. Screams filled the valley. Child after child fell while he stood high above the battle, helpless to alter the course of events. He would do anything to save them, barter, trade, steal, murder, anything. Tears streamed down his face as a tiny lass with blonde ringlets wailed her last breath.